Hi, this is Chris Camera Film, and this is my review of the Nebtek Power Bracket for the Convergent design Odyssey 7 or 7Q. So here's a few photos of what my Convergent design monitor looks inside the porta brace case, and you can see it's a sorry state of affairs. I originally tried to go with Sony L-mount batteries, both on the side and on the back, which would actually power the Teradek Bolt. But it just didn't work. I took it out on shoots with me, and the porta brace cover would just slip off. The batteries, you could never tell how full they were. There was no kind of guidance to that. And the Teradek system itself, I mean, I tried to Velcro it on the back. It didn't work. It kept on sliding off. The whole thing was an absolute disaster. And I kind of realised very early on that I really had to sort this problem out and go with something slightly more professional. Before we go any further with this, I just want to say that I had to re-record this voiceover because the original voiceover I did with the filming wasn't that great. So everything's going to be slightly out of sync with my hand movements and everything, but there you go. Okay, so what we've got here is my Odyssey 7Q, and I fitted the first two parts onto the back of it. First, you can see there is a metal cheese plate which screws onto the back of the Odyssey by four small screws. You see there, and that just gives it a very solid backing. The second part of it is the battery mount. Now, there are two battery mounts that come with the Odyssey 7. That's Anton Bauer and IDX. I chose Anton Bauer, and that just basically slips into the back of the cheese plate. And then it screws in. You can see that small little silver screw. It just screws in at the back there, and that gives you your kind of solid basing for fitting all the other parts onto the Odyssey 7Q. So here's the next piece to be added on. This is the table stand which fits onto the bottom of the Nebtek system. Really like this. The table stand is unbelievably light. One of the great things it has, and I've seen other systems have this, is this light stand holder, which for any of you who've been filming, doing interviews, trying to set up lights, having the ability to put your monitor on a light stand so you can have it at different heights is absolutely fantastic. So this is a great little addition to this. As you can see also here, I've got the two BNC inputs. The ends of those BNCs fit into the Odyssey, but they come out of the back, so that's very easy. And also I think there's about 6 inputs that you can have for this system, but I've only got 2. So here are the two 1/4 inch 20 screws, I believe that they're called, which fit the base onto the main Nebtek system. Those screws will become loose, you know, as you're out on the field and directors are running around with it, and so you will find you'll have to tighten them up, but that's not so much of a problem. Just tighten them up. Right, I'm going to put this system together. Tiny bit fiddly, it shouldn't be, but I found it a bit fiddly, so I'm just going to speed this up just to save you the boredom. So the first thing we're going to do is you have your powering cable, which we're just going to slot it underneath here, pull it round, and we're going to plug it into the on system here. So there we go. It just slips in nice and tightly there. We then have our two BNC cables, which are BNC bells, which we just screw into that. 1 and 2. And so what that means is that you've got your 2 little outputs there. So you don't have to connect up onto there. It just comes all the way around your 2 endings there. And obviously, as I said before, you can get more cables if you want to, but for me, I only needed 2. Yeah, now one of the reasons I bought this was for this Teradek mounting system here, which sits really nicely onto. And obviously you can see it's at this kind of strange angle here, which I will come to in a second. I bought this was that obviously I've got the Teradek Bolt system there, and this is the receiver module. So all this does, it just sits with one of these screws here, slots into there, and then just screws on. Now, there you go. So that sits really nicely on top of there. Now, well, you're probably wondering why there's a second hole here and what is actually going to be powering this Teradek Bolt. Well, one of the great things about dealing with Nebtek is they had this really simple solution for double powering units, as you can see here. So this is a Anton Bauer plate, and it's got two powering units here. So all you do is you just plug it in, and then this powering unit goes in there like that. And then you have your kind of B and C cable. This is the one that came with the Teradek Bolt itself, and you've got either in or out. As you can see down here, it goes to one of these two B and Cs. So there you go there. Now let's just get a battery on here just to power this up. So then if you can see that light's now come on, and so here's my Odyssey 7Q inside the Nebtek Power Bracket, and it's looking absolutely fantastic. And for filming indoors, absolutely brilliant. But it's when I take it outdoors and film outside is where it becomes slightly problematic. Now I can get a cover for the screen itself, like a plastic cover that you would have for your iPhone or your iPad, so the screen becomes scratch resistant. But there's two problems. Firstly, that it's completely exposed to all the elements, and secondly, it's got no sun hood. So, you know, in bright sunshine, you're not going to be able to see much on the screen itself. And this was a problem. But I kind of thought, well, I already have my porta brace jacket that I bought for the Odyssey 7Q. Now, it didn't really work with just the 7Q inside. It was slipping about and slipping around. But I just wondered if it would work with the Nebtek system. Voila! There you go. The porta brace cover is now securely fitted on the back here. As you can see, this now covers the battery, so none of that's going to get ruined. And it fits really snug. And there is the screen there. And so then you can have the kind of little kind of blackout screen there if needs be. Obviously the kind of undercarriage thing is protected there. And also what it means is that you can have your kind of hooks there. I don't know if you can see. Now what I've done for the actual strap here, I've hooked it on to here. Now you could probably think, well, why don't I kind of hook it onto here and here? But unfortunately what happens is that when you hook it onto here, it kind of tends to pull it like that, and then all this kind of seems to kind of shift up. So, but it doesn't matter, all these kind of are universal, so they all kind of fit round. But I just kind of thought, well, what happens if I have a director that doesn't really want kind of handles and this bottom bit here, and wants to go kind of slightly more kind of like low key on it. So what I did, let's get this off. So I thought, well, if I take these handles off like that. So I've got these handles off here, there you can see. And so what about if I bring something like this in? What I have here is a 1/4" mounting screw, as you can see, and it's attached to a split ring, and this is for holding a DSLR camera strap, or in this case, a monitor strap. You can see that there, and then just attach that onto there. Let's do the same around the other side. And then we attach this onto there. So then you have now you have that there. Let me move it into more into screen. And so you don't have to have the handles. So you can either have it both. You can either have the handles on, or you can have them off, and you can just attach this. Attaches to here. Either way, this still stays. By the way, this still stays. If you just touch this in, this still stays really nicely attached. It doesn't kind of tend to pull off. So it's really, really good. So very happy with that. The kind of like Teradek system, which kind of sits up on here. Obviously, when you have it up like this, it kind of sits at a slant, which apparently isn't, 100% what Teradek want. Teradek kind of want the system more up like that. But obviously, if you have it on, if you're holding it, you're going to be holding it like that. So then all of a sudden, this then sits up like this. Now there were other systems available, and one of the reasons that I kind of chose the Nebtek version as opposed to maybe the Convergent design or one of the others was that Convergent design is this brilliant system. It's kind of a lot like this. If you imagine, let's take this off for a second. They do an excellent dual system as well, and so what happens is that if you imagine you've got this plate here, and then you fit your kind of like two systems in there if you want to, so 1, 2, and then the battery system kind of goes on top there. So it's all kind of nicely hidden away. Now, that seems fine, and when I saw that after I bought this, I was a bit like, well, maybe that would have been a good idea, but there's a real problem in that. Firstly, the Convergent design system, even though it's really, really nice, and like I say, you can just put them side by side and it's really snug together, they only work with this legacy model. The new version that has the kind of fan system, or it doesn't have a fan system at the top, it won't fit that. So if you've already bought the model and then you've bought a new system, it won't fit it. Also, these get incredibly hot. I don't know, it's one of the problems with the kind of Teradek bolts, or one of not their problems, but is they seem to get very, very hot indeed. And I don't know if it's great if they're both going to be stuck in there, getting very hot next to a big battery. And the guys at Teradek, when I asked them about the kind of like system, they said that they didn't kind of follow their kind of standard practice. So this system, even though it seems slightly more, I don't know, clunky, I guess, maybe you could say, I don't know. I prefer it. I mean, obviously this is slightly more exposed now to the kind of like atmosphere, I guess, rain and stuff. But I guess you could just get a cover for this if it got like really rainy. But it just seems like the best choice, I think. And here's another option that's available. It's through a company called Movcam. Now I decided not to go with this system because I'd have to order it in different parts and it would have taken about 2 to 3 weeks to arrive, whereas the Nebtek system took only a week. Having both dual powering and dual mounting was one of the main reasons I bought the Nebtek bracket over the other systems. I have at least, about 3 clients that already own their own Teradek systems, so running them side by side wirelessly on the Odyssey with its split screen viewing really helped whilst filming. Okay guys, thanks very much for taking the time to watch this review. If you have any positive suggestions, please leave them below. Thanks very much, bye bye.